tonight we have Kathy and Albert Bork, and they through Europe, and so they're going to tell you all about that. They're going to talk, and then you can ask some questions when they're done.
Thanks, Lee. In 2020, we had a trip to Central Europe planned, which was postponed, as I'm sure all of your trips were postponed. So we went in 2021, and we decided, and that trip was in October. We decided if we were going to spend all the money to go to Europe, we might as well just stay there for a really long time. So we did. Too long, in my opinion, but things it was fine. I think 2 months would have been perfect. 3 months was a little long for me. Those are the places we went. Well, because we had that one tour already scheduled, we decided we'd try to find another tour somewhere in Greece, because I've always wanted to go to Greece. And so we found a tour that billed itself as Alexander the Great's Greece or something along those lines, which dovetailed pretty well with the tour we already had. So this trip, we went to Provence to start. We went to the Central Europe trip. Then we went to Athens for a week. Then we went to the Alexander the Great trip. Then we were to have flown home from Milan, so we were going to spend 2 weeks at the end in northern Italy, which we've not done much of. But it was fairly short notice. The airline canceled that flight, which I'm sure a lot of you have experienced as well since all this COVID stuff, and moved it to Paris. So we went back to Paris for 2 weeks, which normally wouldn't be a problem, but we'd already been to Paris 3 times, and so that was not the happiest thing for us, but we made do.
She's speaking for herself.
I'm always speaking for myself. Of whom else would I speak? So, and I'm going to let Albert speak for himself. He's going to get a little bit of chance to talk, not as much as I am. Well, don't you want to say something? I'm speaking for myself. Welcome to 54 years of marriage. Okay. Our original plan was to take trains and buses everywhere, but because we were traveling for 3 months, because we were traveling through 2 seasons, hot weather and cold weather, we needed an enormous amount of luggage. So this was my suitcase. Those were all Albert's suitcases. He takes more stuff than I do. I had 3 of these. They're called packets. A lot of people make them, but I had one for my summer clothing. I had one for my pants. I had one for my blouses. Then I had 2 of these for underwear, pajamas, scarves, that kind of stuff. So for the summer portion of our trip, I bought 4 of these cotton dresses. And I just rotated through them. I found them for $15 a piece at the Gap, and I thought, well, that's just perfect. Hate them when I'm through with this trip, just toss them. I took this purse, which is riffed, if that's what it's called.
Yes.
It doesn't let people scan your credit cards and all that through it. So it's a nice idea.
And all of them latch shut.
They all have locks on all the zippers have locks. So it's a nice purse. I took a George Pitlick hat. But here's the George Pitlick hat, which I really needed in Paris because it was very cold. Every night, Albert and I, when we're traveling, because we're not people who go to bars, just never have been, we play skip-bo or phase 10. These things are very easy to carry, they're small. And I had this notebook that was given to me by Donna Erke, and the whole half of the notebook is filled with our scores from every night. I believe we ended the 3 months with me 300 games behind Albert.
It's only 25 people.
Or we played 300 games, something like that. And that, I think, was all I wanted to tell you. Oh, yeah. You want to know about our COVID experience, our experience with traveling during, shortly before, France changed its rules shortly before we left.
They didn't really, they just said they were going.
They said they were going to, and so given our travel schedule, we did not have time to get a full-blown COVID test and get the results before we flew. So we had to go a day early to Newark. We had to get the 30-minute test for $250 a piece in the airport so that we could get on the airplane. And coming back, something similar happened. We were to fly on a Monday home, and President Biden announced a couple of days before that he was going to change the amount of time your test had to be valid from 72 hours to 24 hours.
Yes.
And because we were flying on a Monday and none of the labs were open on Sunday, we had to change our flight, our hotels, everything, so that we could fly on a Friday. And that was kind of a hassle, because you'd go to a lab and it'd say it would be open, but it wasn't open. So that was a hassle. We never did get the sanitary
The
pass.
green pass in Italy.
We just used our CDC cards. We'd show it to them, they'd say, "Oh, American, okay." So they were pretty good about wearing their masks, but there was a lot of the exposed nose. I don't see any of that here, so yay for you all.
We had had our third Moderna shots at the end of August. And we would show them our CDC cards and say, "We've had 3," and they'd go, "Wow," and fine.
So we didn't really have much problem with that, except for the going and the coming with, the rules changing on what kind of test you had to get on the planes and that sort of thing. It was relatively easy, easier than we thought it would be, and people were pretty good about wearing their masks. At least at the beginning. When we got to Hungary, our tour guide told us that she had just been told that Hungary had no COVID at all, so there was no problem not worrying about masks or anything. Or we wore our masks anyway. So let's hit the road.
Okay.
Those are the countries. Those are the countries we went to. Radical acceptance. We visited friends in Italy who have a daughter who's a therapist, and this daughter was having to send her children back to in-person school, and she was having a very hard time because she felt she was sending them to their deaths. Those were her words. But she said that there's a therapeutic program called Radical Acceptance, which we'd never heard of, but that's basically what it is in a nutshell. So, something bad happens to you, if you can fix it, fix it. If you can't, just go with the flow. So we had some instances of that on this trip, as you can imagine. So that is, to me, sort of epitomizes what you would need radical acceptance for. That is, in fact, an art installation in some museum. I can't remember which one.
Modern Art Museum in Nice.
There you go. He's here for the detail work. Okay. This is Provence. That's where we spent most of our time in France. There's Paris way up there, but we were down here the whole time when we were in France. This little red thing right here is going to be very important in just a minute. And that I'll turn it over to him. It's called Béthune. It's a little town in Provence where we spent 4 or 5 days. Okay. Those are the towns we went. Okay, the towns we went to in Provence.
We went from Nice to Béthune, and then used Béthune as a place to stay to go to all the other places.
How were you traveling?
We had a car at that point. We rented a car. This is Nice. And that's all you're gonna see about Nice, because people know about Nice, and so we're gonna show you more of the odder places we went. This is the French Riviera. This is where people go to the beach. That's the beach. It's a bunch of rocks. There's no sand. Big rocks. Just lying there on beach towels, just happy as can. This was Albert's favorite thing in all of Nice. Was in a park, and it's a place where you go and you can refill your water bottles with sparkling water.
The one on the left is still water, the one on the right is sparkling water, and it's water from the Provence Alps, which are just up the hill.
He's a simple man. Sparkling water from public fountains. This is wow. This is the little place we stayed for 2 days. That was our B&B. These are all grapevines here. This was the public market a few days ago. And right in front of the place we were staying was a little free library. They're everywhere. We did see them around.
Europe.
Okay.
All the books, all in French.
I think they were, yes.
There were some in English.
There were, I didn't look, I just took my picture and moved on. That's what I did the whole time.
Okay, and then
Longer rest.
it went all by itself.
Okay,
Okay,
now,
this is the real reason we went to France. Okay, this is, and I'm wearing all the clothes that I wore, like, I wore this every single day in Europe, everywhere.
even.
And only one person asked me, what is a Texas master naturalist? And she was a master naturalist in Virginia. Okay, but anyway,
Don't get excited.
The
It's
reason-
not what you think.
was so that I could rent the last bicycle available in Bedouin and ride up Mont Ventoux,
Which is the next slide here. I'll do
which
this.
is there, and therefore have a right to wear this jersey. And what I really like about this
He's
jersey
not gonna go any further.
is that there are like 3 different summits on Mont Ventoux. And this one says 1912, which is in meters. And where's my iPad with all my notes about Mont Ventoux? Anyway, it's approximately 12 miles, it's about 13 miles, and it is averaging 7.5% grade. If you ride Big Hill, the steepest part of Big Hill is 8.5%.
Ouch.
There are 10 sections in the 23 kilometers of Mont Ventoux that are 7 to 10%. And there are 3 that are over 10%. I believe that the climb up to the telescopes is maybe a little over 10%. But anyway, it is the classic ride is from Bedouin up to the top there and stop at Chalet Renard to have lunch, snacks, whatever. But the day that I did it was September 11th, and it was also the day when 3,000 other people were doing it. Because some cycling clubs in Belgium weren't able to do it in 2020, and so they organized all their people. And so Kathy really enjoyed driving up and down because she insisted on giving me support on the
I
ride.
get stuck in Europe all by myself, so.
But anyway, it was a fun ride, and that was an e-bike, and I maybe used a little too much battery too soon, because 200 meters from the top, the battery died. And so I had to actually stand up and make some serious effort to get up to the summit. That is, at Chalet Renard is the end of the, you get to ride through pretty nice forests before you get to Chalet Renard, and then you get to what they call the lunar landscape, which is this. Next. Okay, and see, this is the one I like. And that was my selfie. And those are some of the 3,000 other people.
All of whom had a car following them up and down the two-lane road. This wide, with a drop off on one.
And this is our local cycling group with a design by Alan Van Roy of Cano. Okay, I think we're done with all the fun part.
And he did this because this particular ride is one of the rides in the Tour de France. And so he decided if they could do it, he could do it on an electric bike or half a
So I could have played it on another one, but it would have been not as fun.
It was not fun for me, I'm just gonna say that. It was the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever, I seriously, the road was this wide, two-way traffic, bicycles were going up and down, and cars were going up and down at high rates of speed.
Okay, get over it.
The only thing worse was Naples, but we'll get to that. This is the Palace of the Popes, 14th century Palace of the Popes in Avignon. It was a little bit of a disappointment to us. I can't really tell you why. It was a big empty thing on the inside, and
I don't know if she wanted to meet a pope there or what. There were, I think, only maybe some dead ones, who knows?
I don't.
And that was one of the day trips we took out of Bedouin.
That's a Roman Colosseum. We could not go in because there was a bullfight that day.
Not the Colosseum,
Excuse me.
an amphitheater.
Amphitheater. This is why he's here. There'd be a lot of
And there was a bullfight, as she said. They do bullfighting in southern France.
And I think it was the kill the bull kind, not the more
We
civilized.
do think so.
But we don't know that for sure because we didn't go in it. Okay, this is the Luna Foundation building. It was designed by Frank Gehry, which Linda, I know, will recognize it right away. That's a staircase inside of the building. We just toured this building because we both really like Frank Gehry stuff. We didn't know anything about the Luna Foundation. It's an arts foundation. Apparently have a lot of money, so took lots of pictures inside, but those are the only two you're going to see because I think that's a really beautiful thing.
There is a 3-story slide inside there that you can take to go down
Instead
from
of
the
stairs
third
in
to
the elevator.
the first floor instead of the elevator.
Did you do it?
No,
We've done it before.
we're very old. This is a town called Les Baux. It is. It's built on a rocky. This is not the town, but this is in the town where it's built on a rocky plateau that is 820 feet high. That's what it looks like. Go back to the other one, please. When we went there, we went to I'm calling it a light and sound show. You've seen those things where you.
Immersive art
Immersive
exhibit
art.
is what they call them now.
This one was Cezanne and Kandinsky. And it's in an abandoned quarry. This is what the quarry looks like in the parts that don't have this show in it. Then in the other parts of the quarry, they had this Cezanne and Kandinsky scene. It was all Cezanne and then, mostly Cezanne and then a little Kandinsky. It was stunning because they have this loud music playing and the pictures are changing, you know, it's paintings projected on the wall and they're changing and they're all over the place and they're above you, below you, all surrounding you and the music is surrounding you and it just was.
Do you recall what the music was that they paired with Cezanne?
Of course not. Something classical. Just don't ask me.
Some classical, some rock music.
And I thought that the juxtaposition of Cezanne and Kandinsky was kind of interesting too. So we're big fans of Kandinsky, but it's not very Cezanne, so but it was really, really, really beautiful. So that's what it looked like. That's just the quarry, and then that's part of the quarry that they're doing. And this is a permanent thing, I think. So if you go to Les Gaules, go to that. So that's the town. It's a 14th century fortified chateau. I think I stole that picture from Wikipedia or something, because there was no way I could get a view from above. Highly recommend that you go to this place if you've been Provence.
And those of you who know about mining and stuff have heard of bauxite. This is the town it's named after.
Oh, wow. Cool.
This is more in Les Gaules. That's the town cemetery. Those are ceramic flowers. All the gravestones in the cemetery had those ceramic flowers on it. And I thought they were really beautiful. That's just a view up through the town. We also went out of Bedouin to Pont de Gare, which was the first century Roman aqueduct, which is magnificent. I highly recommend that you see that if you go. More pictures of the aqueduct. So you walk across it, they weren't allowing people to walk across the top, everybody was walking across this part.
Is it still in use?
I don't remember, I don't think so. I think it's
No,
just a
but
tourist walk across the river thing.
The aqueduct is still, it could be used if it needed to be. But I'm forgetting the exact information about it, but it's like in however many kilometers it runs, the drop is still as it was in the first century. It's still absolutely perfect.
It's really impressive.
2,000 years. We're not building anything to last 2,000 years.
No.
The last 20 years. Okay, this is the walled city of Carcassonne. Also highly recommend, also stolen from Wikipedia because I didn't have a drone. So it's has about nearly 2 miles of defensive ramparts around it. It's one of the largest surviving medieval walled cities in Europe. It has been occupied and fortified since before Roman times. So these are all pictures of Carcassonne. We stayed there a couple of days, I think.
Yeah.
And we were able to it's just gorgeous, just gorgeous. So the other side of the Old River, which is where Carcassonne is, this is for Lee and Jim, who did the Camino de Santiago. This is one of the several starting points in France, I guess. So that's the fortress from the other side of the river. Marseille, I'm not going to tell you much about Marseille except this little fun thing. To get up to this church, which is up on a mountain, you ride this little tourist bus, and it has a canned Franglish commentary going on it. And so we're riding along, and she's talking about when we're gonna get to the top, we were gonna see a statue of the Virgin and Kid. Albert asked me and said, did she say? I said, yes, she did. Virgin and Kid. So we got up to the top of that statue, the golden statue, and Virgin and Kid. It's my favorite thing about Marseille. So that's just Marseille from the Basilica. This is the museum in Marseille, which is a wonderful museum if you go there. Wonderful, especially for its architecture, I think. These are the walkways to get around different parts. They're like plexiglass stuff, so you can see all through the bottom floors, and it's really beautiful. You'll see that we're fans of modern architecture and painting, but it's worth going to if you go. This is Aix-en-Provence. That's the best meal we had ever there. It's a croque monsieur, which is basically an egg with truffles on it, bread, egg, cheese, and then
Deep fried sandwich, kind of.
French fries fried in duck fat. It was so good, we counted them to make sure nobody got more than the other. That's the only picture you see. So, this is Cézanne's atelier in Aix-en-Provence. We did not go inside because we did not know you had to have an appointment. So if you want to see Cézanne's atelier, be sure to make an appointment online.
I was there in 2019, and I didn't need an appointment.
Because he was on a tour, which made the appointment.
No, I was all by my lonesome. Okay.
I put this slide in because this is a church that was deconsecrated in the 70s, I think, I can't remember now. And turned into a modern art museum. So I just love the juxtaposition of all this modern art in this deconsecrated church. I thought it was just beautiful. And what I think is beautiful is what you're seeing. This is the, I'm not even gonna be able to pronounce, you tell me the name of this.
Village Jardin et Fruits de Rothschild.
It's between Nice and Monaco. It's built between 1907 and 1912 by the Baroness Beatrice de Rothschild.
Et Fruits de Rothschild.
Well, but anyway, it's a beautiful thing. It's also worth seeing, I think. It's got all these fountains, and every few minutes it does a water and light and music show. I had some videos of it, but I lost it. So, also a beautiful place to see. Okay, we're now going to Italy. We have good friends who are live in Las Vegas most of the time, but he's Italian, so they go to Italy once a year and spend a few. They have a house in this town called Isernia, which is in the Molise. We went to visit them for 3 or 4 days. We had rented a car in Nice to drive over there because of all of this stuff. A big car.
It wouldn't fit in that space.
So, except we made it. So, we were on our own for one day in Isernia because they had to go to a wedding. So we were driving around, and we're driving down the street like that, and there's a police car at the end. And I said to Albert, you think they're waiting for us? And he said, it turns out they were. Because we were going the wrong way down a one-way street. French GPS did this to us over and over again. We get to the end, and the police say, where are you trying to go? And we tried to tell them we were basically just trying to get out of town. So they said, turn around and follow. They escorted us out of town. They would not let us go anywhere. We got to the end of town. They stopped their car and looked at us and said, it was terrifying. But anyway, that's a cute little town. But okay, this is Monte Cassino, which is near Isernia. I don't know if you know about the Battle of Monte Cassino.
Yeah.
was a series of 4 assaults by the Allies against the Winter Line in Italy, held by the Axis forces during World War II. On February 15th, 1944, American bombers dropped 1,400 tons of high explosives on this place. And that's what it looked, that's a photograph of a photograph, but that's what it looked like back in the day. It was built in 529. That's after we dropped 1,400 pounds of high explosives on it. This is after.
Tons.
Tons. Yeah, 1,400 pounds. This is after the Italians rebuilt it, refusing any aid from the Americans. They rebuilt it with their own money. So it's also a beautiful thing that I highly recommend you go see if you're in the Molise.
And was it a monastery?
I think it was a monastery.
Yes.
We opted to go to Herculaneum instead of Pompeii because an archaeologist had told us that it was just about as interesting, didn't have as many, might have been you, I don't know, didn't have as many tourists, so we went to Herculaneum. We spent 2 or 3 hours there, I guess. This is sort of an overview. Herculaneum was buried under volcanic ash and pumice in the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in AD 79. They found it in 1709. The nature of the material that buried Herculaneum preserved more wood objects such as roofs, beds, and doors, and other organic-based materials such as food and papyrus, more than in Pompeii. It was smaller than Pompeii, with a population of up to 5,000, but it was a wealthier town than Pompeii. So there was a lot of art still on the walls. Some of the paintings were preserved. It was pretty amazing. This was a tavern, right?
Yes,
And I think that's where they kept the adult
the
beverages.
hooch.
And this was a boat that they found. You probably remember, that's in the museum. You probably remember more of the details of the boat, but it was buried in ash.
Yes.
And they very carefully how they got it out of there is a pretty amazing story. So go to the museum in Herculaneum and you'll find out about that. Okay, then we went to the Amalfi Coast. We did not stay in Amalfi because it's too expensive. We stayed in a town called Maiori, which is just up the road, and there's a bus service back and forth. Or you can take the Lemon Trail. You can walk the Lemon Trail. They're famous in this part of the world for lemons, hence the name Lemon Trail. So we walked from Maiori to Minori, which is another town on the Amalfi Coast near the town of Amalfi. This is all lemon trees, lemon groves, all of this. So the trail had 400 steps. Wikipedia says it was 7.5 miles long, but I don't think it was actually that long.
No.
So, but it was kind of a fun walk to get to. There are people along the way outside their lemon groves who have made their own limoncello and their own lemonade, and they're sitting there with a little lemonade stand. You give them €1 and they'll give you a glass of extremely tart lemonade or limoncello.
And then when we got back to Maiori, we got the best lemon gelato at a little cart on the beach. It was just fabulous.
And that's Amalfi itself, which is stunning, swarming with tourists. Swarming.
Even in beginning of October.
Which is when we were there. There doesn't seem to be much of an off-season anymore, at least not in our experience. There were just bazillions of tourists there, even though we were supposed to be in the off-season. So I guess maybe people traveling at all times of year, whenever they can get away before another variant of the virus hits or something. So, but it's beautiful. But there were just too many people for us. So we got back on a bus and took a bus back to Maiori instead of walking the Lemon Trail 400 steps again. So.
And now Kathy's favorite city.
The whole town of Naples looks like that left-hand, right hand
slide. Apparently they've not discovered the purpose of garbage cans in Naples. I'm not lying, it's like that everywhere. That was me the whole time we were there. Once again, our French GPS went batshit. Crazy. It kept taking us down one-way streets, streets that are this wide, because this is an old place. And my job was to keep my passenger side window down, so that every time I would get too close to a car or a motorcycle or a wall, I had to flip the rear view mirror outside mirror so they didn't take them out. This woman actually, we were walking around and we saw a sign for a mandolin concert, so we decided we would just go to this mandolin concert, which was fun. But right in the middle of it, she was one of the singers, that she was the singer at the concert. But right in the middle of the concert, there's horrendous screaming from outside, some man screaming in Italian. Turns out someone had blocked his car in. Well, there's not a single car in the city of Naples, I promise you, that has not been blocked in by 3 layers of cars. So what the big deal was, I don't know, but he was really upset. So we had to stop the concert. They thought it was this guy's car. So he puts his mandolin down, he runs outside, screams at the guy for a little while, comes back in, the guy starts screaming again. Not his car. Somebody else's car. So one of the other musicians goes out. It was his car, but the guy's still screaming. So the singer, who you can tell is a woman to be reckoned with, goes out and takes care of it. She comes back in, gets back on stage, and just carries on and starts singing again. It was kind of fun. But I was never so glad to see the end of some places now. I hated it. I do not recommend it. The drivers are just hard to explain to you how they are. We went to this one place in Sicily, the only place we went, Catania. We like it a lot. This is volcanic ash from Mount Etna. I just picked it up in the parking lot of the place we were staying, so it's everywhere.
Okay, they wanted to look at it. Pam wanted to open it and look at it. I don't know if she should be allowed to.
You can look at it. In fact, you can have it. But a lot of the streets that we saw in Italy and France do this. They have all kinds of things, umbrellas, flowers, all kinds of things, just all right across the street. It's very pretty.
The street that our hotel was in Vienna also had umbrellas like this.
They clearly don't have the winds we have here. Maybe a 5-minute decoration. Okay, so we needed to take the car back to Nice. So we were driving back to Nice and we spent the night in Tivoli. And just by accident, Albert happened to find in a guidebook that Hadrian's Villa was here. Hadrian was the Roman emperor from 117 to 138. So you get an idea of how old this is. This thing was magnificent. We spent 3 hours there, just walking around. We were the first ones there, so there were no people there when we first got there. It was great. These are the mosaic. This was in this area. All of these this was like a hotel for Hadrian's visitors. And so all these things have mosaic, these are the original tiles. And they're all different. Every pattern's different. Every room has a different pattern. Just gorgeous. And then this was like a theater. This water goes all the way around it. And apparently Hadrian spent a lot of time there. He liked that place. But if you're near Tivoli and near Hadrian's Villa, it's worth a visit. More to say. Pisa. I made Albert go to Pisa. He thought, oh, hulky Pisa. Pisa. It's just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous. And did you go? Okay. We got
her props.
one of our many radical acceptance moments was we were hardly ever able to find the place that we were staying. I forgot to tell you in Naples that we couldn't find the place we were staying because it didn't have street address because it costs more if you put a house number. It costs more in taxes if you put a number on your house. So they just tell you, oh, find it on Google Maps, and we spent hours looking for the place in Naples.
Before we went, we were wondering what to do about phones when we were there. And my nephew, who spends every waking minute searching for travel deals anywhere and everywhere, said what he does is he just buys a phone and buys a European SIM card for it. And I didn't want to buy another phone, so I said, okay, I'm going to be really clever, and I'm going to get a European SIM card for my iPad, and then use it as a hotspot and use my phones off of it. And that worked wonderfully, unless they were using WhatsApp, which is what everyone was using. Because WhatsApp, you can't do a hotspot off another phone because it is end-to-end protected. And so you can't do it off another phone. It's got to have its own direct contact. So everywhere, or most everywhere where we stayed at like Airbnbs and stuff like that. As soon as we made a reservation, they would send us a message, an email message saying, do you have WhatsApp? And then they would call us or whatever on WhatsApp. And it worked fine if we were using the Wi-Fi in a Airbnb wherever we were staying, but it didn't work off my hotspot. So anyway.
We had a lot of trouble finding a lot of the places we stayed.
So what do you recommend?
Do what my nephew does and
Buy a cheap phone.
buy a cheap phone and get a European SIM card for it. The alternative was to use at that time I had AT&T, and it was $10 a day, which would have been $900 during the time we were gone. But the SIM card for like 3 months was only 50 euros. So you could buy a cheap phone
Into an
and.
American phone? Can you put a European SIM card
Yes.
into an
Yeah.
iPhone for
We
that?
bought it on Amazon before we left.
The SIM card,
The
yes.
SIM card.
Anyway, tell them about Pisa and about the postcards.
Well, I will. But first I want to tell you, go here if you are in Italy. You can't believe how beautiful it is. I know it's hokey, but it's really worth seeing.
And it's better in the evening because there are very few tourists after nightfall and it's all lighted up.
And it was
And it
surrounded
is
by
really
Italian
cool.
soldiers with machine guns, so I felt safe there. We went to the gift shop at Pisa, because I had some postcards I wanted to mail, and I bought some postcards in the gift shop, and the guy said, oh, do you need stamps? And I said, well, yes, I do. He said, well, here, I have some stamps. And he sold me these stamps. Never, ever buy these stamps.
Global
So
Postal,
Global Postal Service. They cost a whole lot more than the Postal Service's stamp, and you can mail them only in Global Postal Service's boxes, yellow boxes, not the red ones. I said to the man, so where's the closest box? Oh, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. You won't have them. I never saw one, not one. The entire trip.
after we got home, we discovered that inside the envelope was a map of where every one of the boxes is located. And so what we did was we took all the postcards that had the Global Postal Service stamp on them and mailed them finally in
No, we ended up.
the Czech Republic or some other place with real stamps. And so that's why your card from Pisa was mailed from some other country.
Skopje, Albania or something. So, a word to the wise.
Wow.
And they sell them all over Europe. It's a big old scam. Okay, Pisa's worth seeing, even though it's hokey, it's worth seeing. It's just breathtaking.
Okay, we're on our way back to Nice to turn the car in and catch a plane to go here
Oh, Krakow.
to begin our Road Scholar postponed 2020 tour, 4 days in each city.
So we spent 4 days in Krakow. I'm not gonna tell you, you're not gonna see a lot about this, because these are all places that you can easily look up. It's beautiful. Go there if you can. But I had to do this in an hour, and I've only got 9 minutes left, so. This is Hungary, Budapest, also very beautiful. That's Parliament, right?
Yes.
This is something called a wreck bar, W-R-E-C-K. Ruin bar, R-U-I-N. That's. There are a whole bunch of buildings that, after the war were not rebuilt. They had side walls, they don't have roofs, they don't have fronts, and they put bars in there. They're all over the place, so one of our things on our tour was to take us to this ruin bar, which was, and they're hopping, they are the place to be, so. Austria, Vienna. I like Vienna a lot more than I thought I would like Vienna. Actually, I missed something. That had a lot of those big thermal bath operations, and this was
No,
enormous.
that was Hungary.
So I had this in the wrong country. You were supposed to catch all those mistakes.
No. Thermal baths are here.
Okay, that slide should have been on this slide, so sorry. But anyway, I didn't like the thermal baths. A lot of really unattractive people. I felt so lissome and live. All these people in this. Oh.
Okay, these are out of order, but the apartment complex in the upper right-hand corner is in Vienna, and it's an architect called Hundertwasser, and he, I guess, was their answer to Gaudi, except he's much more recent.
Yeah, this was
And
like
there were
in the
some
20th century.
cool stuff of his. This, and the library, of course, is that was a royal library in Vienna. And then this one is out of order.
You were supposed to have caught all of this.
Well, it was
Okay, this is,
Remove it.
Poland. It should have been in the
It
Poland.
was with the Krakow.
We did a tour of Auschwitz and Birkenau, which was horrifying. This is Auschwitz, it's on the top, Birkenau's on the bottom. This is an actual train car that they transported prisoners to Birkenau. It was hard. I asked the woman who did the tour, we asked her how she did this every day. She said, I think it's important to do it, but when my shift is over, I have to go for a 5-mile run before I can even go home. So they make all high school students visit the camps in Poland. They have to go on a field trip to a camp at some point.
It's part of the school curriculum.
So I think it's
And it was the day that the school superintendent up in the Dallas area said that if you're gonna teach about the Holocaust, you need to give the other side, the other point of view.
Hey, Kath, real quick, I was there like in the late eighties, but do you remember the wall of shoes,
Yes.
glasses?
That was a building I couldn't go into.
Well, I'll never forget this wall of shoes as big as this wall behind me, and there was one little pair of red pants. It's just, I'll never forget it.
There were several buildings I wasn't able to go into, I just waited outside, Albert went in, crematoriums, I couldn't. But anyway, Prague was probably my favorite city of that Central European tour. The architecture is just magnificent. I recommend, I think I told those of you who didn't follow my blog, if you got only one big trip left in you, go to Prague. So it just, really good. This is also Prague. That's one of those mechanical clocks where the people come out. This is what they call Venice, the Venice of Prague. These houses are built on a canal and the little suitcase again. Greece, I always wanted to go to Greece. We had a week between the two tours, so we went to Athens. This is Athens in the off, that's the Acropolis in the off season, so you can only imagine what it must be like in high season. Linda was there. Just a few
A week
days
before us, I
I
think.
think it was a couple of days before, yeah. Really close.
And they have goat heads there. That's where they came from.
So, we wandered around the Acropolis for a while. It's really beautiful. They're doing a lot of work on it, but there's a lot of scaffolding, I think. But it's obviously worth seeing. So, Thessaloniki is Greece's second city.
That's where our Alexander the Great tour started.
So now we're on our. I'm not giving you a lot of stuff on the places that everybody knows a lot about, because I just don't have time. Thessaloniki was kind of interesting. We did a lot of walking there. I could probably have skipped Thessaloniki. If you've only got a little bit of time, maybe.
Okay, the main thing about Thessaloniki was that they also had a branch of my favorite gelato store on the entire trip, which was Bufala gelato made of buffalo milk, which has higher fat content, and it was absolutely wonderful.
And he had it every single day. And I had it too, because I didn't want him to have to eat that for lunch. Okay, this is Meteora. This is a place, that's just a view from our hotel. Okay, this is the monastery of St. Varlam. There are 6 monasteries left in Meteora out of an original 24. And they still have monks in there doing their thing. You get to, they haul materials, and we had to walk up on steps, but I guess if you're a monk, you don't have to do that. So you can see the wires going up here. They haul stuff using, they used to use this thing, the rope and the thing where they just turn it. That's how the monks got back and forth from one building to another. That's just the garden in the monastery. But Meteora, definitely go to Meteora if you're in that part of the world. There are you can tour all of these monasteries. We toured 2 of them, I guess.
Yeah.
So, just magnificent. See, this is where we stayed in Isti, which is in,
It is in north central Greece. And the mountains there from our window looked exactly as if we were up in the basin in Big Bend National Park. It was just absolutely incredible.
And you're right by Mount Olympus in that area, aren't you?
Pretty close to Mount Olympus, yes.
Was Mount Olympus the one we never could find?
No,
Oh, that was Vesuvius, wasn't it?
that was
You
Vesuvius.
think so?
It was the one with the thunderbolts. coming from.
Yeah, our GPS once again led us, we said, take us to Mount Vesuvius, and they took us middle of some neighborhood where we stopped at mail carrier. Where's Mount Vesuvius? He said, oh, it's not here.
No, but it was, the GPS was going right along, we were seeing signs that said Vesuvius National Park, and as we got to like 2 kilometers, the signs all disappeared, and Vesuvius was way over there.
So there was some more radical acceptance. We said, oh, there it is. Move on. No, we'll never find it. This was just a hike we did one day. There's a bridge near, out of Idisti. And you know all the little things we have along the highway when someone dies in a wreck, and they put, this is how they do it in these areas. These are enclosed in glass, and those are iron or some sort of metal, I guess, iron. So that's the same, they do the same thing. Apparently that must be a worldwide thing. So I thought it was interesting.
And out of Idisti, we had the option of doing rafting, and she passed on it, and I did it, and it was pretty interesting, but it was pretty cold, and those last couple kilometers in the dark weren't a whole lot of fun.
My nap was fun. Then we're still on our Alexander the Great tour. We're in Greece now, so this is,
Vergina.
I'm missing a whole page of my notes. No, I'm not. Vergina or Vergina? Vergina? Right? You know how to pronounce all this. This was the first capital of Macedon. In 336 BC, Philip II was assassinated in the theater, and his son Alexander the Great was proclaimed king. The most recent finds were made in 1977 when the burial sites of several kings were discovered, and this is where they were, under this mound here.
They built a mound over them because looting existed even back then. But there were, if I remember correctly, 5 tombs. 1 of them had been found, 4 of them had not been found, including Alexander's father, Philip II, 1 of his wives, and Alexander's son, which they were able to determine through all kinds of different things. But that 8-kilo golden box contained the bones of Philip II.
And so see, they built the museum is under that mound. The museum is built under the mound. It just,
They left everything.
they left everything in situ. They didn't move it to a big museum in Athens or something like that. And so, it's just one magnificent golden thing after another, none of which was mushed or anything else. They're just all in their original forms. And that's the tomb of Philip II, which the archaeologists can get into through the back. But that's the tomb right there. I mean, there's the door to the tomb. But this is something really genius.
What size is that box?
This big, maybe. A little bigger the box.
Bigger than
A
that,
little bigger than that.
yeah.
But I mean, there were crowns, there were suits, full suits of armor, completely intact. They just, like nothing you've ever seen, because everything you've ever seen has been looted. For some reason or other, nobody would have thought that hill had anything under it, so I don't know. It was something. Now we've gone to Albania, which is part of the Alexander the Great tour. Never would have thought to go to Albania in my whole life, but it was really interesting and really beautiful and cheap. So, this is Gjirokastër, where we stayed a couple of days.
Yeah. I think we spent 2 or 3 nights there.
On the tour.
And this tour was overseas adventure travel. The prior one was Rhodes Scholar. And we were much fonder of overseas adventure travel. They seemed to have the hotels were just a little notch better, and the meals were much better. Tour guides, fairly comparable, because both tour leaders we had were excellent. And our tour guide said, "Oh, I've heard that we can do a hike here. Is anyone interested?" And there were 5 of us interested. And we couldn't go until 4:30. The sun setting at like 5:30. And the guide being a 16-year-old
I
kid,
believe he was only 15.
15-year-old kid,
So he
Kathy
said,
hiked with
no
him.
problem, we can get there in the daylight. 75-year-old people who were hiking.
So we got there in the dark, so she had to rip off this picture from Wikipedia again. But it was to hike to this bridge.
That's the Ali Pasha Bridge. The entire trail in the dark, this wide, with this drop off here, was like this.
Beautiful, better in the dark.
So, you know, a 15-year-old kid who's done this his entire life is, you know, mountain goating it up the hill and we're going, the guide at one point gets to my left because the drop off's there. She says, I can't let you drop off. I'm going to have to go first, so I'm just going to stay next to you so that I'll fall off and you won't. I go, wow. I think that's a great solution. Go back to Ali Pasha. I have more things to say about Ali Pasha. So we got to it. It's pitch black. We couldn't see it. But that's what it was. So Albert and one of the other people on the tour go and scramble up to the top and decide to start walking across this thing in the pitch black. Dark. I'm screaming, "Get off of there!"
There was a first quarter moon, we could see pretty decently. Flashlights.
So is that from the Ottoman times in this area?
It is, just a minute. The Ali Pasha Bridge is part of a large aqueduct complex commissioned at the beginning of the 19th century by Ali Pasha. They called it where I got this must have been Wikipedia again. The bridge is an easy 30-minute hike from Girocaster. But it gave us a lot to talk about. So, the country of Albania is peppered with bunkers. They're all over the place. They're in the towns, they're in the cities. We were heading in a bus to North Macedonia, which was the ending point of our tour. And there, almost as we're getting to the border, there's a whole lot of these bunkers there. So our guide made the bus driver stop, and we got to walk up there and go look at it. I had a picture of Albert peeking out of one, but I lost it. A lot of my pictures disappeared. So
Were these built by the communist regime?
yes, exactly. And they were all pointing toward Macedonia. And they all look like that. But I mean, they had them in the middle of the big towns. They're smack in the middle of town. They're all over the place.
There were, yeah, we saw several of them in Tirana and in other cities.
This is called the Colorful Mosque in North Macedonia. That's the outside, clearly. And the inside is just magnificently decorated. So if you're ever in North Macedonia, another place we never would have gone in our lives, but it turned out to be really interesting, really beautiful. I think we both recommend it, and it's relatively inexpensive, so.
And why was North Macedonia in the news yesterday?
Won the soccer. They beat Italy.
They eliminated Italy from the World Cup.
Wow. Another reason to visit. This is Ohrid, North Macedonia, where we spent some time. Did a nice hike.
Yep, the castle up on the top, we hiked up to that. And then a magnificent archaeological site.
I stole this picture from Wikipedia as well. But it's called the Bay of Bones. It's an authentic partial reconstruction of the pile dwelling settlement, a pile dwelling settlement built between 1200 and 700 BC. It's the original prehistoric settlement occupied 8,500 square meters. The lake is very shallow, so they could build this thing on pilings like this. It's considered by many to be one of the largest prehistoric palafittes, you archaeologists, I'm probably saying that wrong, which is an ancient dwelling built on piles over a lake. So you walk across this footbridge here, and all these little buildings, what was all that built up? It was just
Wattle.
wattle. And inside, they had reconstructed, but they had all the furniture and stuff was built out of rushes and things like that. Really recommend this if you're ever in North Macedonia.
What was the purpose, did they say?
It was just where they lived. It was just a village.
Was it security?
Yeah,
Well,
clearly, yeah, so that,
but then they could also just get their fish out of the lake and,
yeah, but the bridge, may not have been there. That may have just been built for us, for tourists to get there. And they may have had to get out there on boats.
Yeah.
but the lake was very shallow at that time, so they probably could just walk across maybe. We're still at Skopje is the end of our tour in North Macedonia. There is a battle going on between Greece and it's called now officially the Republic of North Macedonia, which was something that they agreed in a treaty with Greece that they would call themselves the Republic of North Macedonia because Greece gave them something in return. I don't remember what now.
Because there is a state of Macedonia in Greece, and
So
they wanted no
They both
confusion.
claim Alexander the Great as their own. So this statue of Alexander the Great in Skopje, North Macedonia, is called Warrior on a Horse. They cannot call it Alexander the Great because they agreed with the Greeks not to do that in exchange for something. Who knows, like a quart of milk or something. I don't know. So it's a big old statue.
We left Skopje at a reasonable time. There were 2 flights leaving each day. One was at 4:30 in the morning, and one was at 10. And we chose the 10 o'clock one, which went to Turkey. And so we were in the airport in Turkey, only time I've ever been in Turkey.
I'd like to go to Turkey. Paris, we stayed in an Airbnb in Paris at the, across the street from the Luxembourg Gardens. This building it had a little balcony out of the living room. So this building was directly across the street from our place, and it's some government ministry now, but it's where the Gestapo was headquartered in Paris. And so the guy who showed us the place said that American soldiers were billeted in the place we were staying in our little apartment. And he said at some point, I don't remember when, they blasted this building, shot it all to pieces to get the Gestapo out and got them out. I mean, they got it out, got them out. So we walked down and they left all the bullet holes there so that to remind people. But there it was, the Gestapo was all in that building, right next to the Luxembourg Gardens. Those are just pictures of Notre Dame still under construction. You still can't go in. You can't really see too much from the outside. You see all across the top up there and all the scaffolding and all the scaffolding there. Okay, Ivy is Mont Saint-Michel, another do not miss place. It's in Normandy. We took a train, we left our luggage in our place in Paris and took a train to this, spent a night there.
And didn't really need to, you can just go and make it a day trip from Paris.
We were there in the off-season. We had intended to go on down to Normandy from there and, you know, the old Normandy stuff, but we were there in the off-season. There was only one hotel open, and only one restaurant open, the hotel restaurant, except for some restaurants actually in the town of, you know, Saint-Michel up there. So we couldn't go to Normandy. But,
All the buses quit running, all the trains quit running in the off-season.
it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, dates from the 9th century. It was at its apex during the 12th century. It served as a prison starting in 1791 until 1863. It was declared a historic monument in 1874. So it's got a, he's just shooting through those, isn't he? This
That's what
thing,
he's talking about.
these things, this thing right here is attached to this, which is a big wheel. The prisoners, this is how they got stuff up and down from the town.
It's a conveyor belt.
And so the prisoners had to just turn this big old wheel, which would haul stuff up and down. We're almost through, don't we? These are just more pictures of the Mont Saint-Michel. Magnificent, you should go.
Question,
Yes.
did you ever get to watch the famous tide race across that flat?
No, we never did. It was always looked like that while we were there, so. We're back in Paris. We thought we were gonna be in Milan, but we're back in Paris, and there was this, the botanical garden had this huge, so these are just big balloon kinds of things lighted from the inside, and it's the evolution of the species. It's plants and animals, and it's acres of these things. And some of them, they move, and some of them make noises, and it's just something they do.
What part of Paris was it?
It's at the botanical garden where, I don't know what part of Paris it is. We walked there from our.
It's near the Sorbonne.
So. But you're not gonna get a lot of time. This is the Champs-Élysées at Christmas time, because we were there, end of November, during the 1 month of Black Friday sales that they have in Paris.
That was
They don't
the,
have Thanksgiving, but they have a month of Black Friday sales.
the one thing we found in every country we went to was Black Friday sales being advertised beginning in September.
Oh, don't complain. These are just department stores, and that's the end, and there's the Eiffel Tower at night, and
And we could see it from our window in our apartment. And we would have been able to see it a whole lot better now after all the leaves dropped from the trees.
but we were there for 2 weeks, and every night it was a little better, because the wind would blow and blow some leaves off the tree, and you could see even more of it, so. And every hour, it has a light show where the lights change, and it has beacons that go around and through. Those are some, and that's the end, that's all we have to say. Those are some museums that we saw that we say you do not miss. Don't miss the Acropolis Museum. If you go to Athens, Linda will back us up on that. Don't miss the Archaeological Museum of Vergina. The Chagall Museum is X or Nice? X. Nice. The Matisse.
Matisse is in Nice, Macht is in Saint-Paul-de-Vence, which is about see, she
I
forgot.
forgot where my is. When we went to Meteora, to the monasteries, women had to wear a skirt or a dress. And of course, who does that? But luckily, they will sell you one of these for 6 euros,
Yes.
and you just wrap it around your waist.
Oh.
And that satisfies the one monk who's living there. You can buy them of all different designs. I did see a woman who had hers tied like this, and it was open like this, and the ticket taker comes over and adjusts it to make sure. If you're going to Meteora, I will lend you.